give our president a round of applause. I don't think we'll have any problem in November. Our president and our board and all of the administrators and faculty are doing a tremendous job, and we appreciate all of you. And so we will move forward. Just before we get started, I did want to recognize my director is here, Mr. Stephen Gunn. And you won't see him tonight because he's back here, but my counterpart, my right hand, Derek Balderson, if you give him a hand. And all of our executive cabinet and staff, we thank you for your support on tonight. Moving right into questions. If you haven't seen the screens, I don't know how you wouldn't have seen them. But if you hadn't, there's a number there that you can text in your questions, and if you don't have a cell phone, you can use the persons next to you. Okay. The first question tonight is, when will our student center be built?
Oh.
When will our student center be built?
Well, anybody here? Is anybody here from Mexico? Dios sabe.
God knows. Oh my gosh.
Look,
God knows.
The student center. You need to listen to what I'm going to say to you now. Everybody needs to hear this. The student center. Mart Green and I have walked into the middle of the movie. Okay, the movie's already running when we walked on campus. Some time ago, evidently some years ago, the first initiative was made to raise money and build a student center. Things were cleared away, the place was prepared. Then the problems began to happen. When the floor has fallen out of your house, you don't worry about buying a widescreen TV. Now that's the way it is. So we're trying to fix the floor, we're trying to get the roof right, we're trying to get everything right. And the faster that happens, the faster we can get on with some really good, fun, exciting things that have to happen. But a year ago, 2 years ago, this school was in a survival mode. A year ago, this school was in a very awkward transition mode. Now we're moving forward toward a role of vitality, and fun things can be considered. But my initial, the initial commission given to me by the Board of Trustees of Oral Roberts University was not to start building a student center. It is a good thing. We need it. I believe in it. The board believes in it. We're all there. Nobody has to be convinced. Pero no tengo dinero. Okay? So we're all I can say to you is we believe the cavalry is coming, but right now I don't hear any bugles. So everybody hold tight, and we'll do the best with it we can. It's a perfectly legitimate question given the history here. It's just that that's history when things were different. We're trying to get things right and get things on top. And they're getting there fast. So hold tight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know anything.
This question is directed at both Mr. Green and Dr. Rutland. Will you please talk about the current model of shared governance? Please give examples of how students can have a voice in areas of campus life like chapel, music, speakers, scheduled events, and so forth.
Well, shared governance is a wonderfully complex and nuanced terminology. Shared governance is a phrase that sounds a lot to people. When you say it, it sounds to people like equally shared government. And that's not what it says. Shared governance. Governance in an institution is the process by which the right decisions get made at the right time. So in all of the process of shared governance, It is the purpose and function of shared governance to get the right people, the right eyes on the page, the right voices involved at the right altitude. So there are decisions that require insight, input, help, more people involved, more people there. But it's not the same thing as some kind of a pure democracy, where you come to something like, say, financial issues at a high altitude, renegotiating the percentages on the interest rate on your LOC. We don't need the guys who weed the flower beds to have an equal vote with the chief financial officer. That would be equally shared government. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Shared governance says this is not a top-down despotic government. It means that one person doesn't make the decision. That there are all of these areas of leadership. You have the faculty. You have the Dean's Council. You have the Vice President's Council. You have the executive staff. You have the Office of the President. You have all of the shared committees of the Board of Trustees. You have the Board of Trustees itself. If those of you who are business majors, the shared governance process of a university looks a lot more like a publicly traded corporation than people think. The administration is management. There are things I can't, for example, I couldn't go out and borrow $100 million and build new buildings. I don't have the power to do that. I don't have the authority to do that. I could take that to the Board of Trustees and lay that out before them and wait for them to tell me, absolutely not, are you criminally insane? But I would take that to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees, for example, would never step in and say, okay, we want this book taught in English. That's not the business of the Board of Trustees. There are faculty committees that deal with curriculum. So shared governance means getting more people involved at more places to make better informed decisions. So you don't have some tyrannical thing on that. The question was complicated and nuanced. You're dealing with a limited intellect here. You're going to ask one question at a time. Yes,
Yeah, no, good. Appreciate that, Dr. Rutland. And I've learned a lot about shared governance. And like I said, shared governance is not shared authority. The authority is outlined in the bylaws. And at ORU, we don't have a denomination above us. The Board of Trustees, we changed the name when we came on. We used to be called the Board of Regents. The Board of Trustees means the trustees, the buck stops here with the trustees. We're responsible for this whole place. We're entrusted to that. So that's what's called the ultimate authority by bylaws is given to the trustees. Now we delegate that authority to the Office of the President, his team, and then then you have the faculty. So that's kind of what the shared governance. So ideas that come up. So if all of a sudden a new doctorate program wants to come up, that will come through the faculty. They'll wrangle what should it be. It'll come to the Office of the President, and then it'll come here to the Board of Trustees to approve, or to send back and say, you know what, that's a great idea, it's great on mission, but we don't see how you're going to afford it. Can you come back and show us how you're going to afford it, or whatever? Because our ultimate goal is mission with economic sustainability, which we want to move to mission with economic vitality. As we've talked about, sustainability is our first goal, but we're moving out of sustainability to vitality. Vitality is student centers, new things, all those kind of things. But we're not quite there yet, as Dr. Rutland has talked about. Tomorrow I meet with Dexter to talk about, in January we'll have the first ever board retreat. We've been here 3 years now. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years. And we'll sit down and assess, what have we done these last 3 years? Where are we going the next 3 years? And then we'll dream about the next 10 years. We'll have 3 different sessions, the past, the present, and the future. And we'll be talking about all kinds of different things. But one of the things we'll be talking about is expanding our subcommittees. Because this is a great place for faculty, staff, and students to be able to join and for their voice to be heard. So then that's taking the subcommittee up to the committee to the board. And so that's where I'll be sitting down with Dexter and say, Dexter, where do you think students would like to plug into? Where do you think their gifts will help us? What subcommittees and all that? So we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 to set that up. Because of where we were at, just like you said, the floors knocked out of the home and all that stuff, there just wasn't time and place for that. And Dexter's been asking the last 2 years, now, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? And I said, we're going to do it in the right time and stuff. So January will be a focus for us. Tomorrow, Dexter will be working with me to help us say, where can the students plug in on our subcommittees to help us to govern this school. We all want to go together and move together, and so that's where we're headed.